I don't even have a witty or somber intro for this video. I'm just angry. I expected to go into this video with a monologue about how Kingdom Hearts 3 had issues and whether or not Remind fixes any of that. I can't, in all honesty, do that though. I will start this video by saying do not buy this DLC, especially at the price listed. You could spend your $30 on so much better content. Buy Monster Hunter Iceborne instead. This really isn't a matter of figuring out what you value in your games and making a purchasing decision based on that. Hear me out when I say that at face value, Remind does not contain $30 worth of content. Kingdom Hearts 3 did have its issues. Sure, I ragged on it and discussed problems I had with the title, but I can't say that I regretted my purchase. I can say with certainty that Vanilla Kingdom Hearts 3 had at least new content that obviously had some care put into its craft, and at the very least, it was a $60 value. This is definitely not the case with Remind. This is one of the few times where I could legitimately say I regret buying something, and for that regret to come from Kingdom Hearts, a franchise that I adored through most of my youth, that burns. Today, I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't give Kingdom Hearts 3's Remind DLC your money, time, or attention. Also, obviously, there will be spoilers here. You've been warned.
But like, why would I want that when I have the game I waited how long for?
It's Kingdom Hearts, because Square Enix thinks Kingdom Hearts fans will buy anything, and for the most part they will.
Excuse you?
For the most part they will.
Listen, I didn't spend $30. Okay, I spent $30 on stuff that I didn't need to buy, but I bought it because I expect good things. And you know what? I'll probably be disappointed like 75% of the other things I've ever bought from Square Enix in my life. But you know what? It's okay, because...
Listen, all I'm saying is, where was the lie in my statement? Was there a lie in my statement?
Up your ass, that's where it is!
Since Square Enix decided they don't want to properly market or describe what Remind actually is, I will. As even I, a major fan of the series, didn't know exactly what this content was going to entail until I started playing it. Remind, short and simple, is a retcon of the last 3 hours of Kingdom Hearts 3, with the addition of 13 organization data fights included. It's the very ending portion of the game retold to you with added context and a slightly altered turn of events. In this entry you play as Sora as he replaces the events of the ending, this time with the intent of restoring Kairi's heart and saving her. I just want to throw in here that I called this retcon ending in my video on this game last year. I had said that I would have loved an ending where Sora goes to rescue Kairi at the cost of his own life, and that's exactly what we got. Visual symbolism and expression of Sora and Kairi sitting together and finally relaxing, with Sora slowly fading away in the background. It showed that despite all of the trials and hardships that they've been through, they were somehow never meant to be together. At first, I even thought that it had to do with the heartbreaking notion that Sora sacrificed himself to bring Kairi back. If I had to break up the content of Remind, I'd say it's split 3 different ways. It's 75% recycled cutscenes, 10% gameplay, 8% of which is recycled boss battles, and 15% new story content. All that in a 3-hour package for $30. I beat Remind in 3 hours. No wait, actually I beat Remind in 30 minutes and watched 2.5 hours of cutscenes, most of which were cutscenes from the original ending with minor tweaks, some containing no changes at all. For $30. Sorry, I'm getting blinded with rage. Let me just compose myself and we'll deconstruct this pile of turds together. So Remind starts off with Xigbar or Lushu, whatever, talking to George Michael, I mean Luxord, about some obtuse metaphorical shit that eventually leads to him alluding to Xigbar being the double agent he is. After that, we're greeted to another 5-minute cutscene that replays what happens right after the final battle in Kingdom Hearts 3 and Sora's events following that. Then we watch 10 more minutes of cutscenes where they blatantly fill in plot hole gaps from the main story, like explaining who the 13 Seekers of Darkness really were, as they kinda just brushed it over earlier in the story, or explaining what the Master of Masters told young Xehanort in the past that inspired him to orchestrate the events that led up to the game. The fact that they used this DLC to give context to events and fill plot holes 100% makes me feel that the original Kingdom Hearts 3 was not a finished product. All of these things should have been in the game from day one. Maybe even more story bits should have been scattered throughout the game so it didn't feel like you were trudging through a gauntlet of Disney worlds for no reason. But hey, we got what we got, I guess. After this cutscene, you're greeted to another one, where you see Sora talk to the little plushie thing from the Cloud Sea about how he could bring Kairi's heart back. And get this, he can. But it involves everyone's favorite story feature, time travel. You know that thing that fucked up the plot of the series beyond repair and Dream Drop Distance? Yeah, let's just give that to the most reckless character in the series. The game also tells us that Sora's past actions have fucked up the course of history, and that if he were to bring back Kairi, he would have to sacrifice himself. On a side note, the way that Chirithy says this is really funny, because he opts to leave out the important fact that Sora would die after saying that he'll lose an inconsequential power.
You won't be able
Oh
to use
god.
the power of waking.
That's it? Wait.
That's
Matter.
all?
Yeah. Yeah, me too, dude. I was like, wait.
But that's not
Okay,
all.
no, that's not all. Never mind then.
You yourself will vanish from this world.
Oh, okay, that makes... Can save Kairi, but at the cost of two things. He'll lose his powers.
Insanity.
He won't be able to use the power of waking. And I feel like this is a more important thing that the little fucking plushie should have mentioned earlier. He's going to die!
I feel like that's way more astronomical than the first. Wait, Sora loses powers every game.
After this, you go through another cutscene that plays out the events of the first encounter with Terranort in the Keyblade Graveyard, with some minor tweaks to fit the scenario that Sora's in. After this, you get your first boss battle, which is a nerfed version of the secret boss in the base game. Is this the boss I literally fought?
Yes, that is the final secret boss.
And they're gonna make me do it again?
Yes, they are.
I mean, I already whipped your ass several times, my guy. So, you know, this is no problem for me. He's already dead.
Gangster. Yeah, I think they just kind of made him a bitch. I think that's like the first time you fight him.
Well, I mean, he died relatively quickly back when I fought him before, because, you know, I had the ultimate. But, you know, it's like... That was easier than the actual time I fought him. That's sad though. Wait, so you? But that had nothing to do with the cutscene that's currently playing. That had nothing to do at all with anything that is transpiring right in front of me.
Nah, man, that's his inner darkness or some shit.
Yes, your first piece of playable content here is a recycled boss fight. Get this too, it's not like it's a one-off thing either. They do this throughout the whole DLC. Nearly all of the battles you do here are completely recycled from the base game. Sure, there are a few fights where you get to play as Riku and Aqua, but you could already play as them in the base game in different fights, so their movesets are reused too. Then there are the two fights where you can use Roxas and Kairi, and the one with Roxas is pretty fun. I actually really liked playing as Roxas because it was cool and it offered some reprieve from the mundane combat encounters I had before with my level 99 Ultima Keyblade using Sora. But using Kairi in the final fight sucked so hard. She was so slow and sluggish and barely did any damage to Goatnort, so I just ended up using Sora because fuck doing that when he sends meteors down from the fucking sky. Sure, you can play as different characters in this DLC, but all of these fights are taken directly from the base game with content you've already played. It's so lazy that you have to do all of this over again, and just because you can choose to do it with a slightly altered character doesn't change that it's lazy content. And fans of the series who have put up with shit like this for years deserve better. On a side note, let's be real here, Kingdom Hearts as a series has been doing this shit for years, reusing content, world designs, entire plots and assets, all with a slight alteration or a different coat of paint. No amount of tweaks to gameplay systems will take away from the fact that if you play the first game, Chain of Memories encoded At their core, you're playing the same exact game 3 times. Even one of the better entries, 358 over 2 days, is full of recycled maps from the first 2 games. My point in saying this is that fans of Kingdom Hearts have been putting up with this for too long. I at least put up with it because I wanted to be as prepared for Kingdom Hearts 3 as possible, but now that we've gotten that game, why did Square Enix think that they can still get away with this type of thing? In any case, it depresses me to see one of my favorite game franchises devolve into a way for a company to milk its most devoted fans out of their money with half-baked content. There are 2 standout gameplay moments that I actually really liked in Remind. There's the area in the Stairway to the Sky where you look for Kyrie's missing heart pieces. That was cool because it was the only open area in the whole DLC, and I felt like I could explore, discover a few new places, and solve some basic puzzles. You know, standard DLC stuff. Then there was the fight with the 7 Seekers of Light fighting the 13 Goat Norts. That shit was epic. Being able to control everyone as one unit, hearing them all interact, and capping it off with this epic finale where you could power through the end as Mickey was everything I could have ever wanted out of the series in my childhood. It was honestly the epic finale that I felt was missing from the base game. That's honestly probably the best thing I could say about Remind. It actually added some story context, filled in some gaps, and added a bit more oomph to the final stretch of Kingdom Hearts 3. But that's what a retcon does, and the fact that they charged $30 just to get a better version of the final ending, it's honestly unacceptable. This is where you're all typing angrily in the comments, but Zach, that's not all you get. You also get the data organization fights too, you dumbass. And you get the Final Fantasy characters too. Oh, also, don't worry, I will get to the Final Fantasy characters. I will get to that. But yeah, you do get the data fights, and they're a really fun challenge that I'll probably never do on critical mode because playing through base Kingdom Hearts 3 and Remind on critical mode in order to get to it, that sounds like bullshit. So I'ma just leave that to the speedrunners. The data fights are okay. You get a solid challenge in what is essentially a ton of Easter eggs and references to old super boss fights in the series, all packaged in boss fights that contain what a majority of the fights in the base game were missing. Challenging one-on-one fights where you learn patterns, discover weaknesses, and earn satisfying victories. These feel like boss fights, and each one honestly contained the most fun I've had playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh my fucking god, dude! That was so stressful! What the fuck?
Jimbo,
one defense point.
Whoa!
Whoa! 1 point. That's exactly what I wanted. Thanks, Samura. But despite that, I want to emphasize that this fun bit of side content that is enjoyable for a few days does not justify a $30 purchase that's main offering is subpar story content. Yes, there are good parts to this DLC, but the good is so heavily outweighed by the bad that it's sad and almost insulting to see that if all of this DLC could have been as high quality as the data fights, we could have had something great in our hands. So as promised, there are Final Fantasy characters in this DLC. They show up for maybe 3 minutes in the Limit Cut episode, and each of them are voiced by random people, and they say maybe 2 things each. They're meant to lead you into the data fights and the post-game journey for Sora. They don't really do anything and dip as soon as they come in. They have no real meaningful interactions with anyone, and their inclusion seems like a lazy apology for not having them in the game to begin with. But yeah, that's it. Please don't buy this DLC. At least don't buy it at $30. I could see if maybe you want to have a few fun afternoons with the data fights, justifying buying this for $15, but there's no reason for this DLC to be as expensive as it is without the content to back it up. With this DLC, we should have gotten the story content for free with maybe a $10 separate charge for the Limit Cut episode and data fights, not a $30 package of half-baked story content and a good boss rush mode. I don't even know how to end this. I'm genuinely pissed off.
Go.
Fucking do it again!
Go fucking do it again.
Oh no.
Goofy, what the fuck are you doing? I'm a murderer.
I did it.
I'll fucking do it again. Murder! The demons told me to!
Put the station down.
But I did.
But I did it.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, Goofy. Right? You're Mickey's best friend, right? Yup. All right. You want to get out of this, right? Yup. Do you want to go to jail? Nope.
Are we going to the insane asylum?
Nope.
But you gotta tell the people in there if you didn't do it. But I did.
But I did it. Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Goofy, do you find this funny?
Murder!
What?